You didn't lose yourself all at once. It happened slowly, one small surrender at a time. One yes when your body was screaming no. One excuse made for someone else's behavior. One apology for existing too loudly, needing too much, taking up too much space. And here you are, drained, quietly furious, exhausted by people you die for, and wondering why. Here's the truth no one tells you. You trained them. Not because you're weak, not because you're stupid, because somewhere along the way, you learned that your comfort was negotiable, that your peace was a price worth paying to keep others happy, that love had to be earned through sacrifice, and worth had to be proven through availability. You weren't born without boundaries. They were taken from you. And what we're about to do is take them back. You've told yourself a beautiful story. I'm just a nice person. I hate conflict. I don't want to hurt anyone. Let me ask you something uncomfortable. Have you ever considered that those aren't virtues? That they might be armor? Armor you built so early, you forgot you were wearing it. Because here's what "I'm a nice person" often really means. I am afraid of what happens when people are disappointed in me. I hate conflict often means I was punished for having needs, so I buried them. I don't want to hurt anyone often means I don't believe I'm allowed to be honest. You've been calling your fear by a prettier name: kindness, generosity, flexibility. But strip away the language, and what you find underneath is this: a person who doesn't believe they have the right to exist on their own terms. That's not kindness. That's a wound wearing a costume. People talk about boundaries like they're walls you build to keep others out. They're not. Boundaries are the invisible architecture of your self-respect. They are the map of where you end and another person begins. They are the answer to the question, what am I willing to accept and what am I not? There are boundaries you can see, the physical ones. Don't touch me without asking. Don't show up uninvited. But the ones that matter most are invisible. There are emotional boundaries. I will not be your emotional landfill. I will not absorb your chaos and call it closeness. There are mental boundaries. I will not let your opinions override what I know to be true about myself. There are time boundaries. My time has value. It is not infinitely available to whoever demands it. And when these lines don't exist, or when you draw them and then erase them the moment someone pushes, the cost is enormous. It doesn't announce itself loudly. It accumulates. First as a slight tiredness, then as a heaviness you can't explain, then as resentment, quiet, simmering, directed at the people you love most, then as a slow hollowing out of who you were before you became so useful to everyone else. That's not metaphor. That's what happens inside a person who has given their boundaries away, piece by piece, for years. You stop knowing what you actually want, because you've spent so long asking what everyone else needs. This is where it gets real. You didn't arrive here by accident. Your nervous system learned something in childhood, probably before you had words for it, and it has been running that program ever since. Maybe love in your home was conditional. You got warmth when you were compliant, silence when you weren't. So you learned, being agreeable is how I stay safe. Maybe expressing a need led to punishment, dismissal, or ridicule. So you learned, having needs is dangerous. Maybe the adults around you modeled self-erasure as virtue. They gave and called it love. And you absorbed the lesson. Good people don't take. Good people only give. And now, decades later, your brain has wired itself around one central terrifying belief. If you assert yourself, you will be rejected, abandoned, unloved. So you override yourself constantly. You silence the no before it reaches your lips. You rationalize the discomfort. You shrink. And for some of you, especially those who grew up in cultures where hierarchy is sacred, where questioning an elder or authority is seen as disrespect, where no is read as aggression, the pressure is doubled. You're not just fighting your own fear, you're fighting an entire system that taught you that your needs come last, always. This is not weakness, this is conditioning. But here's the brutal part. Understanding why you are the way you are does not automatically change it. Knowledge alone is not freedom, action is. The version of you that people love the most is the version of you that hurts you the most. And that's the thing no one wants to say directly. So let me say it. You don't have a boundary problem. You have a self-worth problem. Because people with genuine self-worth don't debate whether they're allowed to say no. They don't rehearse the conversation 17 times before having it. They don't lie awake calculating how much they can assert themselves before someone decides they're too difficult to love. They simply know, quietly, without performance. that their needs are legitimate, that their time matters, that their discomfort is data, not weakness, that knowing is what you're rebuilding. And it starts before the words come out. It starts in how you see yourself when no one's watching. Now, the part you've been avoiding. People will take as much as you allow. This is not a cynical statement. It is a behavioral fact. Humans are wired to operate within the parameters they're given. If you give someone unlimited access to your time, your energy, your emotional labor, they will use it. Not necessarily because they're cruel, but because you established no limit, and they adapted to that reality. Some people, though, do test you deliberately. They push a little. Watch how you respond. Push again. And every time you absorb the push without consequence, they learn something important about you. This person has a price, and it's low. The people in your life who take the most from you are not always the villains. Some of them genuinely have no idea they're doing it, because you've never given them a reason to stop. And the ones who do know, the ones who exploit your kindness with full awareness, they are not your responsibility to fix, carry, or save. They are your reason to leave. Here's what happens when you actually try to set a boundary. You open your mouth, and before the word is even out, something inside you ignites. What if they get angry? What if they think I'm selfish? What if this destroys the relationship? What if I'm wrong? What if I'm being too sensitive? Your heart rate rises. Your palms dampen. You feel, bizarrely, like you're doing something criminal, like you owe this person an explanation, a justification, an apology. That feeling is real. It's your nervous system doing exactly what it was trained to do, treating social rejection as physical danger. Your brain does not know the difference between a predator and a disappointed friend. Both feel like survival threats. So you retreat. You soften the boundary into a suggestion. You over-explain until the no becomes a maybe. You watch the other person's face for signs of disapproval and immediately begin to manage their emotions at the expense of your own. And afterward, you feel relief for about 5 minutes. Then the resentment floods back in because you betrayed yourself again. This cycle will not break on its own. No gentle frameworks here, just the truth of what it takes. Say no and stop talking. Every word you add after no is a negotiation. No, because I'm tired and I have an early morning and I know this is hard for you and I feel terrible, and that's not a boundary. That's an apology for having. 1. Say no. Let the silence sit. You are not required to fill it. Accept that someone will be upset. This is the hardest part, and there is no workaround. Setting a boundary means accepting that another person might be angry, hurt, or disappointed. That is allowed to happen. Their discomfort is not your emergency. Withdraw your energy from people who repeatedly ignore your limits. You don't need a dramatic exit. You don't owe a confrontation. You simply become less available, less responsive, less present, quietly, consistently, without explanation. Some people will notice and recalibrate. Others will reveal exactly who they are by escalating. Both outcomes give you information. Repeat the boundary without emotional collapse. If someone pushes, you don't debate. You don't renegotiate. You repeat calmly and without theater. That doesn't work for me. Again and again if necessary. Not louder, not angrier, just steady. Repetition is a form of power. Choose self-respect over approval every single time. This is the practice, not a one-time decision, a daily discipline. You will fail at it sometimes. You will slip back into old patterns. That is part of it. Start again. Let's destroy a few things quickly. Boundaries are not selfish. Selfishness is taking from others. Boundaries are simply declining to give what you cannot afford or what you don't want to give. There is nothing selfish about protecting what is yours. Boundaries are not walls. Emotional walls are rigid, total, defensive. They keep everyone out, indiscriminately. Boundaries are selective. They say, this is what I will accept from this person in this relationship. They are not a closing. They are a clarification. Being nice does not make you a good person. Niceness without honesty is manipulation. When you smile and agree while internally screaming, you are not being kind. You are being deceptive. Real goodness includes the willingness to be clear, even when clarity is uncomfortable. And finally, boundaries are not about ego. Ego demands. Ego needs to win. Boundaries simply define. They do not require the other person to agree, change, or validate them. They exist regardless. At some point, maybe today, maybe years from now, you will look back at the version of you that gave everything away. that said yes when every cell in your body said no, that apologized for needing things, that shrank and adjusted and disappeared to keep others comfortable. And you will feel something complicated for that person. Compassion, maybe. Sadness, definitely. But also this. You will understand that the cost of having no boundaries was not just exhaustion or resentment or lost time. The cost was you, the actual, specific, irreplaceable you. Your preferences, your time, your voice, your sense of what matters, quietly eroded until you couldn't remember what you originally wanted before you became so indispensable to everyone else's life. Every boundary you fail to set is not just a yes you didn't mean. It's a piece of yourself you hand over and may never fully recover. The world does not reward the boundaryless. It consumes them. So the question is not whether you can afford to start holding the line. The question is whether you can afford to keep losing yourself to people who were never counting the cost. You already know the answer. You've known it for a long time. The only thing left is to act like it.